All right, let's bring in Ed Smart. His daughter, as you remember, Elizabeth Smart, was kidnapped from their house back in 2022, and she was held captive for nearly a year in a case that captivated the nation, much like this one. Thank you so much, Mr. Smart, for being with us.
You bet.
So when you watch that video that Savannah and her siblings released, what comes to mind? What was happening behind the scenes?
You know, I think that the family wants to keep the information flowing. It wants to also let her mother know that, bring her hope, bring her that they haven't forgotten her, that they're trying to do everything that they possibly can to bring her home. I think also talking directly to the those that have taken her, the abductors, is crucially important, that they know that they're trying to comply with everything that's being said, that they want to resolve this and bring their mother home. You know, in our case, we wanted to let Elizabeth know that we were thinking of her, that we are there for her, that she's not being forgotten. And, you know, the support from the community is huge. I think a lot of people, seeing those pictures of prayer services, and in our case, we had a huge search by the public. You know, media has become a huge point, especially social media, an important part where, you know, people can come in and leave tips. And, you know, we had a website set up for Elizabeth Smart Search Center. That was huge in helping to bring tips and more information in. It's not surprising to see there another investigation or another look at the house, you know, bringing the FBI in to process the house after the sheriff. I think it seems like the law enforcement are doing a very good job in trying to bring this to a close.
And what about for you personally? I see the first step, according to investigators, is eliminate the family. How tough was that early on when the family's getting the scrutiny from investigators, and how long did it take?
You know, it went on for quite a while. We felt like we needed to do everything that we could to help bring Elizabeth home. Clearing the family is crucial. They're generally the first place that law enforcement look. So, you know, cooperating with law enforcement to bring that to a close as quickly as possible so that they can move on to other potential parts of the investigation were really important. So I think clearing the family, I've heard, you know, comments, well, they went into the house, they've, you know, searched here or searched there. Those are all part of what an investigation would require. And basically checking off that the family's clear. In our case, it went on for days trying to clear the family. And, you know, people are sleep deprived and doing the best that they can, but still, you know, when you don't find your loved one, it's really difficult to, you know, to try and focus and stay positive. But I think that until you get the message otherwise, you have to have that faith and that hope that your loved one will come home. And so for the Guthries, I hope and pray that Nancy is found soon and brought back home to them.
So, Ed, and thank you so much for doing the show. The entire nation, I remember when I was in school, what happened to your daughter, and I remember the tapes being played. And one thing I remember is you being on TV, you and your family, very early. The Guthrie family waited some days to do that. What role did law enforcement play in that decision to get in front of the cameras quickly?
You know, law enforcement in our case did not. I mean, we had a press conference the first day, and but our family decided that we needed to keep Elizabeth's face out there. And so we made an attempt to try to have regular press conferences on a daily or twice a day, bring up new pictures of Elizabeth, trying to reach out so that you think about the what happens in the end, basically engaging the public in potentially that one person that might have seen something coming forward and helping the investigation uncover what actually happened that night.
Ed, did Elizabeth ever see any of your videos that you and your wife produced that was on the media, on TV? I'm curious, like, they're pleading with their mom, giving her messages to stay strong. What are the chances that the mom is seeing this?
Well, what happened in our case is Elizabeth heard about them from Brian David Mitchell. He would come back and say, you know, the whole country is looking for you and your family, but nobody knows because I have got you. And so they did make, her captors did make her aware that there was a search, that we were out there calling for her. But basically, in the end, Brian Mitchell basically determined how much information got to Elizabeth. So it's hard to know whether Nancy can hear or not, but it's important to make that effort to do that because, you know, bringing her hope in a very difficult time and keeping her hopes up that this is going to be resolved and she'll be back with her family, nothing could be more important.
Ed, forgive me for the question, but how did you get investigators? Because your family, your entire family went through this. How did you get investigators to rule you guys out as family so they could take those resources and focus more on capturing the person that did this? What did you guys do?
We tried to cooperate with law enforcement. Any questions they had, anything that needed to be addressed, we got in there and tried to do that. You recall we had polygraphs. Any questions that they had, we wanted to answer them as quickly as possible and cooperate in every possible way, regardless of, you know, what the situation was. So cooperating, of course, was hugely important. And, you know, I think also making sure that everybody out there knew that, you know, we were doing everything. In our investigation, where we had a lot of public volunteers helping in the search, letting everybody know that we were cooperating. Once there were a couple of questions that came up during the search, and when those questions would surface, we would see the volunteers that were helping us search drop way down. So, you know, clearing ourselves, which should have been done right away. I mean, you know, my wife was there, my siblings had their spouses there. So it was something that could have been cleared much quicker. And hopefully that's one thing that was learned from our case. But you never know. Each law enforcement agency has different protocols. They have different ways of dealing with things. So it's just important to try to comply with law enforcement as quickly as possible and basically resolve any issues.
Ed, if I put you in that press conference today when the sheriff and hopefully other investigators talk, what's the question that Ed Smart would ask?
You know, there were a lot of questions. One is, what's the latest on the investigation? What have you actually learned? Were these ransom notes actually there? Have you had any response? You know, I've heard that there have been some responses, I don't know, directly from the captors. That may or may not be the case because law enforcement have to retain all the information they have. They don't make that public usually. So there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered to the public. But we know that law enforcement generally have an idea of what's going on, and that, you know, the most current information is something that only they would know.
Right. And of course, you're an example of what there's a lot of reason to have hope, because that's what happened in your case. Thanks so much, Ed Smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Thank you.
Thank you. They have to be asking questions to everyone who had access to that house. If she had nurses, if she had a housekeeper, anyone who might have had, I mean, there could be a child of someone who works inside the home who just knows they have access to millions of dollars through Savannah's job and her success. There could be someone at church that knows that that's Savannah's mom, or wants the media attention. They know that if it's someone who's a public figure, they're going to get a lot of attention.
I do think that it's important context to add that this is a story that typically Savannah would be covering. This is her beat. She's not only a trained lawyer, but crime stories are the stories that she used to do. I don't care if you're a crime reporter or you're a detective. It is much different when you become the victim. The way you deliver statements, you can be a trained broadcaster all day, but there's a different emotion when it's your own mother, and no matter the resources that she has connections within the FBI. Obviously, the president of the United States has committed all these resources, state police and all that. Is different when you're the victim here.
Yep.
Imagine what her mom is going through, too. Everyone continue to say prayers. I know that means a lot to the family. So please remember Nancy in your prayers, and that she's found soon. There's going to be a press conference today at 1 o'clock.
Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become a Fox News Patriot today. Click join to find out how.